Imagine, if you will, a journey not just through space, but through time. A journey where the boundaries of past and present blur, and the very fabric of reality is put to the test. This is the realm of the grandfather paradox, a thought experiment that has intrigued philosophers and scientists alike, challenging our understanding of causality and free will. Picture this. You have access to a time machine and decide to travel back to a time before your grandfather met your grandmother. For reasons known only to you, you prevent their meeting, ensuring that your father, and consequently, are never born. But here's the conundrum. If you were never born, how could you have traveled back in time to prevent their meeting in the first place? This creates a loop of impossibility, a paradox that defies our conventional understanding of cause and effect. This paradox isn't just a whimsical puzzle. It strikes at the core of determinism and free will. If events in the past can be altered, leading to changes in the present, does that mean our choices are not as free as we perceive them to be? Or does it suggest that the past is immutable, fixed in such a way that any attempt to change it would be futile, thereby preserving the timeline as we know it? Physicists and philosophers have proposed various resolutions to this paradox. One such proposition is the Novikov self-consistency principle, which posits that any actions taken by a time traveler were always part of history, ensuring consistency and preventing any contradictions. In this view, free will is constrained by the necessity of maintaining a consistent timeline. Another intriguing resolution comes from the realm of quantum mechanics and the many worlds interpretation. This theory suggests that each possible outcome of a decision actually occurs, but in separate, branching universes. So, in one universe, your grandparents meet and you are born. In another, they don't and you never exist. This perspective allows for free will and time travel without leading to paradoxes, as each action simply creates a new, parallel timeline. The grandfather paradox serves as a profound reminder of the complexities inherent in the concepts of time, causality, and free will. It challenges us to ponder whether our choices are truly our own or if they are predetermined by an unalterable sequence of events. As you drift into sleep, let your mind wander through these temporal mazes, exploring the delicate balance between fate and choice, and the mysteries that lie within the corridors of time. Imagine two identical twins. One stays on Earth while the other boards a spaceship traveling at speeds approaching the speed of light. The space-traveling twin journeys into the depths of the cosmos for what feels like only a few years. Eventually, he turns around and returns home, excited to share stories of his adventure. But upon reunion, something astonishing happens. The traveling twin finds that his sibling has aged dramatically, while he himself has barely aged at all. This scenario, known as the twin paradox, emerges from Einstein's theory of special relativity. According to relativity, time passes slower for someone moving at incredibly high speeds compared to someone stationary. Yet, from each twin's perspective, the other twin is the one in motion. Why, then, doesn't each twin find the other younger upon reunion? The resolution lies hidden in the subtlety of acceleration. The traveling twin experiences changes in speed, accelerating, slowing down, and turning around, breaking symmetry between their experiences. The twin on Earth remains in a relatively consistent inertial frame, while the traveling twin undergoes acceleration and deceleration, fundamentally altering their experience of time. The twin paradox challenges our intuitive notions of time as absolute and universal. It forces us to confront the startling truth that time is flexible, relative, and dependent on motion and gravity. What we experience as seconds and minutes can be entirely different for someone else, traveling through space at extraordinary velocities. As you reflect gently on this paradox, consider that perhaps every moment you've ever experienced is unique to you, your personal journey through time distinct from everyone else's. Time, it turns out, isn't a uniform ticking clock but a deeply personal and uniquely subjective experience, quietly defying our assumptions and inviting us to reconsider what now truly means. Imagine, for a moment, the intricate dance of particles at the smallest scales of existence, a realm where certainty dissolves into probabilities, and the predictable clockwork of classical physics gives way to the enigmatic nature of quantum mechanics. At this fundamental level, particles like electrons don't have definite positions or velocities until they're observed. Instead, they exist in a superposition of all possible states. This inherent unpredictability is known as quantum indeterminacy, and it challenges the deterministic framework that has long underpinned our understanding of the universe. In classical physics, determinism reigns supreme. Given the present state of a system, its future behavior can be precisely predicted. However, quantum mechanics introduces a fundamental randomness. For example, when measuring the spin of an electron, we can only predict the probability of obtaining a particular outcome, not the outcome itself. This shift from certainty to probability raises profound questions about the nature of reality and, intriguingly, about the concept of free will. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that this intrinsic randomness could provide a foundation for free will, proposing that not all events are predestined by prior states. If the universe allows for genuine indeterminacy, then perhaps human decisions aren't entirely determined by preceding causes, leaving room for autonomous choice. However, randomness alone doesn't equate to free will. Actions resulting from random processes aren't necessarily willed or intentional. Thus, the presence of quantum indeterminacy complicates the narrative but doesn't straightforwardly grant us free agency. Moreover, not all physicists agree on the indeterministic nature of quantum mechanics. Some interpretations, like the many-worlds hypothesis, maintain determinism by suggesting that all possible outcomes of a quantum event actually occur, each in its own separate universe. In this view, every possible decision spawns a new branch of reality, preserving determinism but expanding it across a multiverse. This perspective offers a different lens through which to examine free will, implying that every choice we make leads to a divergence of worlds, each containing a different version of ourselves experiencing the consequences of those choices. The debate extends beyond physics into philosophy and neuroscience, where scholars ponder how quantum mechanics intersects with consciousness and decision-making. Some theories propose that quantum processes in the brain could influence thought and behavior, potentially linking the randomness of quantum events to the exercise of free will. However, these ideas remain highly speculative and are subjects of ongoing research and debate. As you reflect on these notions, consider how the mysteries of the quantum realm mirror the complexities of human choice. Just as particles exist in a haze of possibilities until observed, our decisions often emerge from a web of potentials, influenced by myriad seen and unseen factors. The interplay between determinism and randomness in the universe invites us to ponder the true nature of free will, encouraging a deeper exploration of how much control we truly wield over our destinies. Imagine, for a moment, the intricate dance of neurons within your brain, a symphony of electrical impulses and chemical signals that give rise to thoughts, emotions, and actions. At the heart of this complex interplay lies consciousness, the enigmatic state of self-awareness that allows us to reflect, deliberate, and make choices. But how does this conscious experience relate to the concept of free will? Does our ability to introspect and plan confer upon us genuine autonomy, or is free will merely an illusion crafted by the mind? One prominent theory suggests that consciousness enables free will by facilitating self-reflection and intentional action. Through conscious awareness, we can evaluate our desires, consider potential consequences, and make informed decisions that align with our values and goals. This capacity for deliberation implies that we are not merely reacting to external stimuli but are actively shaping our destinies through thoughtful choice. However, empirical studies have challenged this notion by revealing that unconscious neural processes often precede conscious decision-making. For instance, research has shown that brain activity indicating a decision occurs milliseconds before individuals become aware of their intention to act. This temporal gap raises questions about the role of consciousness in initiating actions and whether our sense of free will is a post hoc rationalization of unconscious processes. Despite these findings, some scholars argue that consciousness still plays a crucial role in voluntary behavior. They propose that while unconscious processes may set the stage for action, conscious awareness allows for the possibility of vetoing or modifying these impulses, thereby exercising a form of free will. This perspective suggests that consciousness provides a supervisory function, enabling us to override automatic responses and engage in intentional, goal-directed behavior. Moreover, the subjective experience of agency, the feeling that we are the authors of our actions, is closely tied to consciousness. This sense of agency is essential for moral responsibility and social interactions, as it underpins our understanding of accountability and intentionality. Without consciousness, the notion of free will becomes tenuous, as there would be no self-aware entity to claim ownership of decisions and actions. In essence, consciousness serves as the theater in which free will is enacted, providing the platform for self-reflection, deliberation, and intentional action. While unconscious processes undoubtedly influence our behavior, the capacity for conscious awareness allows us to navigate complex moral landscapes, make reasoned choices, and assert control over our actions. Thus, the interplay between consciousness and free will remains a profound and intricate aspect of the human experience, inviting ongoing exploration and contemplation. Imagine for a moment that our lives are akin to rivers flowing within the vast landscape of existence. Each river follows a path shaped by the terrain, twisting through valleys, carving through mountains, guided by the contours of the land. This imagery reflects the essence of compatibilism, a philosophical perspective that seeks to harmonize the concepts of free will and determinism. Determinism posits that every event or action is the result of preceding causes, suggesting a universe where outcomes are, in theory, predictable. In this view, human behavior is influenced by a complex interplay of genetics, environment, and experiences, leading some to question the authenticity of free will. However, compatibilism offers a nuanced perspective. It proposes that free will and determinism are not mutually exclusive but can coexist harmoniously. At the heart of compatibilism lies the idea that true freedom is not about being unbound by causality but about acting in accordance with one's own nature, desires, and motivations, factors that are themselves shaped by prior causes. In this framework, an individual is considered free when they can act according to their internal motivations without external coercion, even if those motivations have deterministic origins. Philosopher David Hume, a prominent advocate of compatibilism, argued that liberty and necessity are compatible. He suggested that human actions are both determined and free when they result from internal desires rather than external constraints. This perspective implies that understanding the causes behind our actions does not negate our freedom but rather enriches our comprehension of human behavior. Consider the act of making a choice, such as selecting a career path. Compatibilism acknowledges that this decision is influenced by various factors: personal interests, cultural background, educational experiences, and societal expectations. While these determinants shape the decision-making process, the choice remains an expression of the individual's character and desires. Thus, the person is exercising free will, even within a deterministic framework. Compatibilism also addresses the concept of moral responsibility. It asserts that individuals can be held accountable for their actions if those actions stem from their internal states, free from external compulsion. This viewpoint maintains that acknowledging the deterministic influences on behavior does not absolve one of responsibility, but rather provides a deeper understanding of the factors that contribute to one's actions. As you reflect on this perspective, consider how compatibilism offers a bridge between the seemingly opposing notions of fate and autonomy. It suggests that, like rivers shaped by the landscape yet flowing according to their own course, our lives are influenced by various factors, yet we navigate them through choices aligned with our inherent dispositions. This harmonious blend of determinism and free will invites a deeper appreciation of the forces that shape our existence and the agency we possess within that framework. Imagine, for a moment, the intricate tapestry that forms our individual identities, a weave of genetic threads interlaced with the fibers of our experiences. This complex interplay between our genetic makeup and environmental influences shapes who we are, guiding our behaviors, preferences, and even our perceptions of free will. Genetics provide the foundational blueprint of our potentialities. Research has shown that many behavioral traits, such as cognitive abilities, personality characteristics, and susceptibility to mental health disorders, have a heritable component. Twin and adoption studies indicate that most behavioral characteristics are heritable. For instance, studies have demonstrated that traits like intelligence and temperament exhibit significant genetic influence, suggesting that our predispositions are, to some extent, encoded within our DNA. However, this genetic blueprint does not operate in isolation. The environment in which we develop plays a crucial role in shaping how these genetic predispositions manifest. Factors such as family dynamics, cultural background, education, and life experiences interact with our genetic makeup, influencing the expression of certain traits and behaviors. For example, a child with a genetic predisposition for high intellectual potential may not reach that potential without a stimulating environment that nurtures learning and curiosity. This dynamic interplay is further complicated by the concept of gene-environment correlations, where an individual's genetic tendencies can influence the kind of environments they are exposed to. For instance, a person with a genetic inclination towards extroversion may seek out social interactions, thereby creating an environment that reinforces and enhances their sociable nature. Conversely, the environments we find ourselves in can affect the expression of our genes through epigenetic mechanisms, where certain experiences can turn genes on or off, impacting our behavior and health. Understanding the balance between genetic predispositions and environmental influences challenges the notion of autonomous choice. If our behaviors are significantly shaped by factors beyond our conscious control, to what extent can we claim to exercise free will? This question delves into the heart of human agency, prompting us to consider how much of our decision-making is genuinely self-directed and how much is orchestrated by the unseen forces of our biology and surroundings. Yet, within this intricate dance of nature and nurture lies the potential for self-awareness and intentionality. Recognizing the influences that shape us can empower us to make conscious choices that align with our values and aspirations. While we may not have control over the genetic hand we've been dealt or the environments we're born into, we possess the capacity to reflect, adapt, and choose paths that lead to personal growth and fulfillment. As you ponder the delicate balance between fate and choice, consider how the threads of genetics and environment have woven the fabric of your own life. Reflect on the ways in which you have navigated this complex landscape, exercising your will within the constraints and possibilities presented to you. In this contemplation, may you find a deeper understanding of the forces that shape us and the freedom we possess to author our own stories. Imagine for a moment that our lives are like intricate tapestries, each thread woven by events of the past and the immutable laws of nature. This imagery lies at the heart of the consequence argument, a philosophical proposition that challenges the coexistence of free will and determinism. Determinism posits that every event, including human actions, is the inevitable result of preceding causes, governed by the laws of nature and the initial conditions of the universe. In this framework, the state of the world at any given moment dictates a single possible future, much like a row of falling dominoes where each tile's descent is caused by the one before it. The consequence argument, notably articulated by philosopher Peter van Inwagen, asserts that if determinism holds true, our actions are merely consequences of these past events and natural laws, factors over which we have no control. Van Inwagen encapsulates this by stating, "If determinism is true, then our acts are the consequence of the laws of nature and events in the remote past. But it's not up to us what went on before we were born, and neither is it up to us what the laws of nature are. Therefore, the consequences of these things, including our present acts, are not up to us." This line of reasoning challenges the notion of free will, suggesting that if our choices are predestined by prior states of the world and unchangeable natural laws, genuine autonomy is an illusion. Critics of the consequence argument, particularly compatibilists, contend that free will and determinism are not mutually exclusive. They argue that freedom resides not in the ability to alter the past or natural laws, but in acting according to one's internal motivations and desires, even if these are themselves determined. As you ponder this philosophical quandary, consider how it illuminates the delicate balance between the forces that shape our existence and our perception of agency within that framework. The consequence argument invites us to reflect on the extent to which our choices are orchestrated by the intricate interplay of past events and universal laws, gently challenging our understanding of freedom and responsibility. Imagine, for a moment, a world where every action, every decision, unfolds with the precision of a finely tuned machine. A universe governed by unyielding laws of cause and effect, where the concept of free will is but an illusion. In such a deterministic reality, the foundations of our moral and justice systems face profound challenges, prompting us to reevaluate notions of praise, blame, and punishment. Traditionally, moral responsibility hinges on the belief that individuals possess free will, the capacity to choose between different courses of action unimpeded. This belief underlies our practices of assigning praise for virtuous deeds and blame for wrongful acts. However, if free will is an illusion and our choices are predetermined by prior causes, the very basis for moral responsibility becomes questionable. Philosopher Galen Strawson encapsulates this dilemma, asserting that without true free will, the concept of ultimate moral responsibility cannot hold. In a deterministic framework, attributing moral responsibility to individuals becomes problematic. If actions are the inevitable result of preceding events and conditions beyond one's control, holding someone accountable in the traditional sense seems unjust. This perspective challenges the justification for conventional punitive measures, suggesting that retribution based on the assumption of free will may be misguided. However, the absence of free will does not necessarily render moral responsibility obsolete. Some philosophers advocate for a reconceptualization of moral responsibility that aligns with a deterministic understanding of human behavior. For instance, Bruce Waller proposes that relinquishing the notion of free will can lead to more compassionate and effective approaches to behavior correction, focusing on rehabilitation rather than punishment. Moreover, the deterministic view encourages a shift towards understanding the underlying causes of behavior, such as genetic predispositions and environmental influences. This perspective fosters empathy and prompts societal efforts to address the root factors contributing to undesirable actions, promoting preventive measures over punitive responses. As you ponder these considerations, reflect on how the interplay between determinism and moral responsibility reshapes our ethical landscape. The recognition that behavior may be influenced by factors beyond individual control invites a more nuanced approach to justice, one that emphasizes understanding, rehabilitation, and systemic change over retribution. In this light, the pursuit of a just society aligns with the complexities of human behavior, acknowledging the intricate web of causality that shapes our actions. Imagine walking into a supermarket, greeted by aisles brimming with a dazzling array of products. The sheer abundance suggests limitless freedom of choice, a testament to consumer autonomy. Yet, beneath this veneer of variety lies a subtle orchestration designed to guide your decisions, a phenomenon known as the illusion of choice. Marketers meticulously craft environments and strategies that influence consumer behavior, often without our conscious awareness. By analyzing human behavior, they can predict the best ways to sell products or services, thereby shaping our everyday shopping habits. This strategic guidance often leads us to believe we're making independent choices, while in reality, our decisions are being subtly directed. One prevalent tactic is the decoy effect, where an additional, less attractive option is introduced to nudge consumers toward a specific choice. For instance, when presented with two subscription plans, one offering online access for $59 and another offering both print and online access for $125, consumers might be torn. However, introducing a third option, offering only print access for $125, makes the combined option more appealing, steering customers toward it. Another subtle strategy is the paradox of choice, which suggests that an overabundance of options can lead to decision fatigue and dissatisfaction. While we might assume that more choices equate to greater freedom, they can overwhelm us, making decision-making more challenging and less satisfying. Moreover, the illusion of choice extends beyond individual products to the brands themselves. Many seemingly diverse brands are often owned by a handful of large corporations, creating a facade of competition and variety. This consolidation means that, despite the appearance of numerous choices, our options are controlled by a limited number of entities. These marketing strategies exploit cognitive biases, subtly shaping our preferences and decisions. By understanding these influences, we can become more mindful consumers, recognizing when our perceived choices are being orchestrated and reclaiming our autonomy in the marketplace. Imagine, for a moment, that language is not merely a tool for communication but a lens through which we perceive and interpret the world. A lens that shapes our thoughts, influences our decisions, and potentially guides the very essence of our free will. This concept, known as linguistic relativity, suggests that the structure and vocabulary of our language can affect how we think and perceive reality. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, named after linguists Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee Whorf, explores this idea by proposing that language functions not just as a means of expressing thoughts but also as a way of defining experience for its speakers. According to this hypothesis, the grammatical and verbal structures inherent in a language can influence how its speakers conceptualize the world around them. For example, consider how different languages categorize colors. Some languages have multiple words for what English speakers simply call blue, distinguishing between various shades with specific terms. This linguistic distinction can lead speakers of those languages to perceive and remember colors differently, highlighting how language can shape cognitive processes. However, the extent to which language determines thought is a subject of ongoing debate. The strong version of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, known as linguistic determinism, suggests that language limits and determines cognitive categories, implying that speakers of different languages experience the world in fundamentally different ways. This perspective raises intriguing questions about free will. If our thoughts are confined by the language we speak, to what extent are our choices truly autonomous? Critics argue that this view underestimates human cognitive flexibility and the ability to think beyond linguistic constraints. They point out that people are capable of understanding and learning concepts that their native language may not explicitly encode, suggesting that while language can influence thought, it does not rigidly determine it. A more moderate interpretation, often referred to as linguistic relativity, posits that language influences thought and decision-making processes without strictly limiting them. This perspective acknowledges that linguistic structures can guide habitual thought patterns and perceptions, subtly shaping our worldview. For instance, the way a language structures time, whether it views time as a linear progression or a cyclical process, can influence how its speakers perceive temporal events and make decisions related to time management. Understanding the role of language in shaping thought invites us to reflect on the nature of free will. If our cognitive processes are influenced by the linguistic frameworks we operate within, then our perceptions, judgments, and choices may be subtly directed by these frameworks. However, the human capacity for self-awareness and critical thinking allows us to recognize these influences and, potentially, to transcend them, exercising autonomy in our decisions. As you ponder these ideas, consider how the language you speak might shape your own perceptions and choices. Reflect on the words and structures you use and how they influence your understanding of the world. This contemplation offers a deeper appreciation of the intricate interplay between language, thought, and free will, encouraging a mindful exploration of how we construct and navigate our realities. Imagine for a moment that each of us is a sculptor, chipping away at the marble of our lives, believing we are free to shape our destinies. Yet, upon closer inspection, we might find that our chisels are guided by unseen hands, those of cultural norms and values that subtly influence our choices. This perspective leads us to the concept of cultural determinism, which suggests that our behaviors, beliefs, and decisions are significantly shaped by the cultural contexts we inhabit. Cultural determinism posits that an individual's culture influences their actions, behaviors, and decisions. From the language we speak to the traditions we uphold, culture provides a framework within which we operate, often unconsciously adhering to its dictates. For instance, in collectivist societies, individuals might prioritize family and community needs over personal desires, while in individualistic cultures, personal achievement and autonomy are often emphasized. This cultural shaping of behavior raises intriguing questions about the universality of free will. If our choices are influenced, perhaps even constrained, by cultural expectations, can we truly claim to exercise free will? Research indicates that people experience cultural pressure to value free will and to devalue determinism. This suggests that our belief in free will itself might be, to some extent, a product of cultural conditioning. Moreover, cross-cultural studies have revealed a striking degree of convergence in intuitions about free will and moral responsibility across diverse societies. This convergence implies that while cultural norms shape the expression of free will, there might be underlying universal aspects to how humans perceive autonomy and moral accountability. The interplay between cultural determinism and free will invites us to reflect on the extent to which our decisions are genuinely autonomous. Are we, as individuals, freely choosing our paths, or are we navigating within the boundaries set by cultural influences? Recognizing the impact of cultural determinism doesn't necessarily negate the existence of free will, but rather frames it within a context that acknowledges the powerful role of cultural shaping. As you ponder these ideas, consider how cultural norms have influenced your own choices and beliefs. Reflecting on this interplay can lead to a deeper understanding of the balance between societal influences and personal autonomy, enriching our appreciation of the complex tapestry that defines human experience. Imagine, for a moment, a serene butterfly resting in a sunlit meadow. With a gentle flutter of its wings, it takes flight, unaware that this seemingly insignificant action could set off a chain of events leading to a distant tornado weeks later. This captivating idea encapsulates the butterfly effect, a concept that illustrates how minuscule actions can have profound and unpredictable consequences, challenging our traditional notions of determinism and predictability. The butterfly effect is a cornerstone of chaos theory, which examines how small variations in initial conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes in complex systems. This phenomenon was first identified by meteorologist Edward Lorenz in the 1960s. While running weather simulations, Lorenz discovered that tiny differences in starting data, such as rounding a number from 0.506127 to 0.506, resulted in dramatically divergent weather patterns. This sensitivity to initial conditions implied that long-term weather forecasting is inherently limited, as even the smallest unknown factor can drastically alter future states. In deterministic systems, the future behavior is entirely determined by initial conditions, following predictable laws without randomness. However, the butterfly effect reveals that in certain deterministic systems, such as the weather, predictability is limited due to their sensitivity to initial conditions. This means that while the systems are deterministic in nature, their behavior can appear random and unpredictable over time. The implications of the butterfly effect extend beyond meteorology into various fields, including economics, ecology, and even human behavior. It serves as a reminder of the intricate interconnectedness of complex systems and the challenges in predicting their long-term behavior. This understanding encourages humility in our ability to forecast and control outcomes in complex environments. As you reflect on the butterfly effect, consider how your own actions, no matter how small, might ripple through the tapestry of existence, influencing events in unforeseen ways. This perspective invites a deeper appreciation for the delicate balance of our world and the profound impact of seemingly trivial choices. Imagine, for a moment, standing at a crossroads where two profound philosophies intersect, each offering a distinct perspective on the nature of our existence and the choices we make. This juncture represents the divergence between fatalism and determinism, two concepts that, while often conflated, present unique implications for the notion of free will. Fatalism is the belief that events are fixed and inevitable regardless of our actions. It suggests that no matter what choices we make, the outcomes are preordained, rendering human effort ineffectual in altering destiny. This perspective often carries a sense of resignation, implying that the future is set and our attempts to change it are futile. For instance, in fatalistic thinking, if one is destined to experience a particular event, it will occur irrespective of any actions taken to prevent it. Determinism, on the other hand, posits that every event is the result of preceding causes, adhering to the natural laws of the universe. In this view, our actions are determined by a chain of prior occurrences and conditions, suggesting that, theoretically, if one had complete knowledge of these factors, future events could be predicted with accuracy. Unlike fatalism, determinism acknowledges that human actions are part of the causal chain and can influence outcomes, even though these actions are themselves determined by prior causes. The distinction between these philosophies has significant implications for free will. Under fatalism, the concept of free will is essentially nullified. Since outcomes are fixed regardless of our choices, the very notion of making a meaningful decision is undermined. This perspective can lead to a passive acceptance of events, as individual agency is perceived as powerless against predetermined fate. Under determinism, while our choices are viewed as the inevitable result of prior causes, there remains a framework for understanding human behavior and responsibility. Actions are seen as part of the causal chain, allowing for the possibility of influencing future events within the deterministic structure. This perspective supports the idea that understanding the determinants of behavior can lead to more informed and deliberate decision-making, even if those decisions are themselves determined. In essence, while both fatalism and determinism suggest that events are not random, they differ in their treatment of human agency. Fatalism renders human action irrelevant to outcomes, whereas determinism incorporates our actions into the causal fabric of the universe, acknowledging that while our choices are determined, they are also determinants of future events. As you reflect on these concepts, consider how they influence our perception of autonomy and responsibility. The nuanced differences between fatalism and determinism invite us to explore the extent to which we are architects of our destiny or subjects of an unyielding causal chain, and how this understanding shapes our experience of free will. Imagine, for a moment, the vast expanse of your mind as an iceberg floating in the ocean. The visible tip represents your conscious awareness, the thoughts, perceptions, and intentions you're actively aware of. However, beneath the surface lies a massive, submerged structure, the unconscious mind, a reservoir of feelings, thoughts, urges, and memories that influence our behavior without our conscious realization. This analogy underscores the profound impact of unconscious processes on our actions, prompting us to question the extent of control exerted by our conscious free will. The concept of the unconscious mind has been a cornerstone of psychological theory since the early 20th century. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, posited that the unconscious harbors desires and memories that, while inaccessible to our conscious mind, significantly shape our behaviors and experiences. Contemporary psychology continues to explore this domain, acknowledging that mental processes outside our awareness influence judgment, feelings, and actions. Empirical research supports the notion that much of our behavior is governed by unconscious processes. For instance, studies have demonstrated that individuals can be primed with certain stimuli, such as words or images, without conscious awareness, subsequently affecting their decisions and actions. This phenomenon suggests that our brains continuously process information below the threshold of consciousness, guiding our behavior in ways we might not recognize. The influence of the unconscious extends to complex decision-making and goal pursuit. Psychologist John Barga's research indicates that environmental cues can activate goals and behaviors without conscious intention, leading individuals to act in alignment with these unconscious motivations. For example, exposure to words related to achievement can enhance performance on subsequent tasks, even if individuals are unaware of the priming. This pervasive influence of the unconscious raises profound questions about the nature of free will. If our actions are significantly shaped by processes beyond our conscious awareness, to what extent can we claim autonomy over our choices? Some scholars argue that acknowledging the role of the unconscious challenges traditional notions of free will, suggesting that our sense of agency may be, at least partially, an illusion. However, others propose a more nuanced perspective, suggesting that conscious and unconscious processes operate in tandem. While unconscious influences are undeniable, our capacity for self-reflection and deliberate reasoning allows us to recognize and potentially override these automatic tendencies. This interplay implies that free will may not be absolute but exists within a framework shaped by both conscious intentions and unconscious drives. As you ponder these insights, consider how the unseen depths of your mind shape your daily experiences. Recognizing the role of unconscious processes invites a deeper understanding of human behavior, encouraging empathy and self-awareness. It also challenges us to reflect on the true nature of free will, acknowledging that while we may not have complete control over our actions, we possess the unique ability to understand and navigate the intricate workings of our own minds. Imagine, for a moment, standing at the intersection of two profound concepts: divine omniscience and human free will. This juncture leads us to the argument from Foreknowledge, a theological debate that questions whether God's all-encompassing knowledge of future events aligns with our perception of free will, or if such foreknowledge implies predestination. Divine foreknowledge refers to the belief that God possesses complete knowledge of all events, past, present, and future. This omniscience suggests that every action we will take is already known to God. The crux of the debate lies here. If God already knows our future actions, can we truly be said to act freely? Does His foreknowledge render our choices predetermined? God knows all events, including human actions, before they occur. If God knows an event will happen, it must occur as foreknown. Otherwise, God's knowledge would be fallible. Implication for free will. If our actions must occur as God foreknows, it appears we cannot choose otherwise, challenging the notion of free will. This argument suggests a tension between divine foreknowledge and human freedom. If our choices are known in advance and thus inevitable, can we genuinely possess free will? Theologians and philosophers have proposed various resolutions to this dilemma. Compatibilism. This view holds that divine foreknowledge and human free will are compatible. Proponents argue that God's knowledge of our future choices doesn't cause or determine them. Rather, He knows them because we will freely make those choices. In this framework, God's foreknowledge is akin to observing our decisions without influencing them, preserving human freedom. Eternalism. Some suggest that God exists outside of time, perceiving all events, past, present, and future, simultaneously. From this timeless perspective, God's knowledge doesn't precede our choices but encompasses them in an eternal now, allowing for free will within the temporal realm. Molinism, named after theologian Luis de Molina, this theory introduces the concept of middle knowledge, proposing that God knows all possible choices individuals might make in any given circumstance. By actualizing specific circumstances, God aligns His divine plan with human free will, knowing how individuals will freely choose without determining those choices. Critics, however, argue that these solutions may not fully resolve the tension. They contend that if God's foreknowledge is infallible, the future is fixed, and our sense of making free choices is illusory. This perspective leans toward theological fatalism, where all events are predestined and human agency is merely a facade. As you reflect on this intricate debate, consider how the interplay between divine foreknowledge and human free will shapes our understanding of destiny and autonomy. Does the notion of an all-knowing deity diminish our sense of freedom, or can we find harmony between these profound concepts? This contemplation invites a deeper exploration of the mysteries that lie at the intersection of faith, knowledge, and the human experience. Imagine for a moment that you're seated comfortably in a quiet room, participating in an experiment that seeks to unravel the mysteries of human volition. In the early 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted a series of pioneering studies that have since become central to debates about free will and consciousness. Libet's experiments aim to investigate the timing of neural events leading up to voluntary actions, challenging traditional notions of free will. Participants were asked to perform a simple task: flex their wrist at a moment of their choosing while observing a specially designed clock. They were instructed to note the exact position of the clock's hand when they first became aware of the intention to move. Simultaneously, electrodes measured their brain activity, focusing on the Bereitschaftspotential or readiness potential, a measurable increase in neural activity that precedes voluntary movements. Libet discovered a striking sequence. The readiness potential began approximately 550 milliseconds before the actual movement occurred. Participants reported becoming consciously aware of their intention to move about 200 milliseconds before the action. This meant that the brain initiated the process, leading to movement 350 milliseconds before individuals became conscious of their decision to act. These findings posed a profound question. If the brain initiates an action before we become consciously aware of our intention, is our sense of free will merely an illusion? Libet himself pondered this, suggesting that while the initiation of action might be unconscious, individuals could still exert a form of control by vetoing or withholding the action in the final moments, a concept he referred to as free won't. Libet's experiments have sparked extensive debate and criticism. Some researchers argue that the readiness potential doesn't necessarily reflect a decision to move but could indicate a general state of attention or preparation. Others question the accuracy of participants' self-reported timing of conscious intention, suggesting that our perception of when we decide to act might be reconstructed after the fact. Subsequent studies have aimed to replicate and expand upon Libet's work, with varying results. Some have found similar neural precursors to action, while others have proposed alternative interpretations, emphasizing the complexity of linking neural activity to conscious decision-making. Libet's research challenges the traditional view that conscious intention directly causes our actions. Instead, it suggests that unconscious neural processes play a significant role in initiating behavior, with conscious awareness emerging later in the sequence. This perspective invites us to reconsider the nature of free will, personal agency, and moral responsibility, acknowledging the intricate interplay between unconscious brain activity and conscious experience. As you reflect on these insights, consider how they reshape our understanding of autonomy and the human experience. The interplay between unconscious neural processes and conscious awareness invites us to ponder the extent to which our choices are truly free. This exploration into the neuroscience of decision-making offers a profound glimpse into the complexities of human cognition, gently challenging our perceptions of free will and the nature of choice. Imagine for a moment that our minds are like sponges, absorbing the myriad influences that surround us from birth. These influences, our family, peers, media, and broader society, shape our beliefs, desires, and behaviors, a process known as social conditioning. This phenomenon raises profound questions about the authenticity of our choices and the extent to which our perceived free will is molded by external forces. Social conditioning refers to the process by which individuals learn behaviors, norms, and values deemed appropriate by their society. From early childhood, we are taught what is acceptable and what is not, internalizing societal expectations that guide our actions. For instance, gender roles often dictate specific behaviors for men and women, influencing career choices, hobbies, and even emotional expression. This conditioning can significantly impact our sense of autonomy. When our desires and decisions are heavily influenced by societal norms, it begs the question, are we truly exercising free will, or are we merely acting within the confines of our conditioning? For example, an individual might pursue a particular career not out of personal passion but because of societal prestige associated with that profession. Moreover, social conditioning can lead to confirmation bias, where individuals favor information that aligns with their pre-existing beliefs, further reinforcing societal norms. This selective exposure to information limits our perspective, making it challenging to break free from conditioned patterns of thought. However, acknowledging the influence of social conditioning doesn't necessarily negate free will. Some argue that awareness of these influences allows individuals to critically assess and, if desired, transcend them, exercising autonomy in redefining their beliefs and choices. This perspective suggests that while our environment shapes us, we possess the capacity for self-reflection and change. As you ponder these ideas, consider how societal expectations have influenced your own decisions. Reflecting on the balance between external influences and personal agency can lead to a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding free will in the context of social conditioning. Imagine for a moment standing at a crossroads, faced with a decision that could alter the course of your life. You deliberate, weighing the pros and cons, believing that your choice stems from rational thought. Yet, beneath this veneer of logic, a complex undercurrent of emotions sways your judgment, often without your conscious realization. This intricate interplay between emotion and decision-making invites us to question the extent to which our choices are products of free will. Emotions are potent drivers of human behavior, shaping our decisions in ways both subtle and profound. Research reveals that emotions can serve as both facilitators and inhibitors in decision-making processes. Positive emotions, such as confidence and enthusiasm, can motivate individuals to take risks and seize opportunities, fostering a proactive attitude toward goal achievement. Conversely, negative emotions like fear and anxiety can lead to more cautious decision-making as individuals seek to avoid potential losses or dangers. Moreover, emotions can act as both facilitators and inhibitors of decision-making. For instance, positive emotions like confidence and enthusiasm can motivate individuals to take risks and pursue opportunities, fostering a proactive attitude toward goal achievement. Conversely, negative emotions such as fear and anxiety can lead to more cautious decision-making as individuals seek to avoid potential losses or dangers. The traditional view of decision-making emphasizes rationality, suggesting that logical analysis should guide choices. However, emotions are integral to the decision-making process, often guiding judgments and actions. For example, strong emotions can impair our judgment and make it challenging to think objectively and critically. The profound impact of emotions on decision-making raises questions about the nature of free will. If our choices are significantly influenced by emotional responses, many of which operate unconsciously, do we truly exercise autonomous control over our actions? Some theories suggest that recognizing the influence of emotions and unconscious processes can lead to a more compassionate and effective approach to behavior correction, focusing on rehabilitation rather than punishment. Understanding the role of emotions in decision-making empowers us to navigate this complex landscape more effectively. By acknowledging that emotions are integral to our choices, we can strive for a balance between emotional intuition and rational deliberation. This balance allows for more nuanced and adaptive decision-making, aligning our actions with both our values and the realities of the situations we encounter. As you reflect on the decisions that have shaped your life, consider the subtle yet profound influence of emotions. Recognizing this interplay invites a deeper exploration of free will, challenging the notion that our choices are solely products of conscious intent. In embracing the complexity of human decision-making, we move closer to understanding the true nature of autonomy and the rich tapestry of factors that guide our paths. Imagine, for a moment, standing at a crossroads, contemplating two distinct paths. This scenario embodies the essence of the principle of alternate possibilities, PAP, which asserts that an individual is morally responsible for their actions only if they could have acted differently. This principle suggests that the capacity to choose among alternatives is fundamental to assigning moral responsibility. However, the concept of determinism challenges this notion by proposing that every event, including human actions, is the inevitable result of preceding causes governed by the laws of nature. In a deterministic framework, the state of the universe at any given moment dictates a single possible future, much like a sequence of falling dominoes where each tile's descent is caused by the one before it. The tension between PAP and determinism raises profound questions about free will and moral responsibility. If our actions are predetermined by prior events and natural laws, can we genuinely be held accountable for them? The inability to have acted otherwise, as determinism implies, seems to undermine the very foundation of moral responsibility as outlined by PP. Philosopher Harry Frankfurt challenged PP by presenting scenarios, now known as Frankfurt cases, where an individual appears morally responsible despite lacking alternative possibilities. For instance, suppose a person decides to perform an action on their own accord, but unbeknownst to them, there is a mechanism in place that would have compelled them to perform the same action had they chosen otherwise. In this case, although the person couldn't have done otherwise, we still consider them morally responsible because they acted according to their own volition. Frankfurt's argument suggests that the ability to do otherwise is not a necessary condition for moral responsibility. Instead, what matters is that the individual's action aligns with their internal desires and intentions, even if alternative possibilities are absent. This perspective shifts the focus from external options to internal motivations, offering a nuanced understanding of free will that can coexist with determinism. As you reflect on these ideas, consider how they influence our perceptions of accountability and autonomy. The interplay between determinism and the principle of alternate possibilities invites us to reevaluate the foundations of moral responsibility, acknowledging the complexities inherent in human decision-making. Imagine, for a moment, standing alone beneath a vast, indifferent sky, confronted by the profound realization that the universe offers no inherent meaning or guidance. This is the existentialist landscape, a realm where individual freedom and responsibility emerge as central themes in the quest to define one's essence amidst an uncaring cosmos. At the heart of existentialist thought lies the assertion that existence precedes essence. This concept suggests that humans first exist without predetermined purpose and must subsequently forge their own identities through choices and actions. Unlike inanimate objects designed with specific functions, individuals are tasked with creating their own meaning in life. Existentialists argue that this absence of predetermined essence grants individuals radical freedom. With no fixed nature dictating our paths, we are free to choose our values, beliefs, and actions. However, this freedom is accompanied by profound responsibility. Each choice contributes to shaping not only our own identity but also the human condition as a whole. As Sartre famously stated, "In fashioning myself, I fashion man." The realization of such boundless freedom often leads to feelings of anguish and abandonment. Without external guidelines or inherent meaning, individuals must confront the weight of their freedom and the solitude it entails. This existential angst arises from the awareness that we alone are responsible for our choices in a universe devoid of inherent purpose. In navigating this freedom, existentialists emphasize the importance of authenticity, living in accordance with one's true self and values, rather than conforming to external pressures. Conversely, falling into bad faith involves denying one's freedom by succumbing to societal expectations or self-deception, thereby relinquishing personal responsibility. Despite acknowledging the universe's indifference, existentialists do not succumb to nihilism. Instead, they advocate for actively creating meaning through our choices and commitments. This self-fashioned purpose becomes a testament to human resilience and the capacity to define one's essence amidst the void. In essence, existentialism challenges us to embrace our freedom, accept the weight of our responsibility, and courageously author our own identities in a world without inherent meaning. Imagine for a moment that you're browsing your favorite online store. As you scroll, personalized recommendations appear, items seemingly tailored to your tastes and preferences. This seamless experience feels like a testament to your autonomy, a reflection of your unique choices. Yet, beneath this veneer lies a sophisticated network of algorithms and data analytics designed to predict and influence your behavior, subtly steering your decisions in ways you might not consciously realize. In our digital age, technology wields unprecedented power to shape human behavior. Algorithms, the backbone of modern platforms, analyze vast amounts of data to discern patterns and predict future actions. For instance, on platforms like Amazon, algorithms influence approximately 1/3 of user decisions, while on Netflix, they sway over 80% of viewing choices. These systems curate content, suggest products, and even determine the news we consume, all based on our past interactions. This personalized approach, while convenient, raises profound questions about free will and autonomy. When our choices are meticulously guided by predictive models, to what extent are we exercising independent judgment? The concept of surveillance capitalism, introduced by scholar Shoshana Zuboff, delves into this phenomenon. It describes a new economic order where personal data is commodified and human behavior becomes a product to be bought and sold. In this framework, our actions are not just anticipated but actively shaped to serve commercial interests. Moreover, the pervasive reach of artificial intelligence, AI, extends beyond mere recommendations. Advanced AI systems can manipulate human emotions and beliefs, often without our conscious awareness. For example, social media platforms utilize AI to promote content that elicits strong emotional reactions, thereby increasing user engagement. While this strategy boosts platform profitability, it can also lead to the spread of misinformation and heightened societal polarization. The ethical implications are significant. As AI becomes more adept at predicting and influencing our behavior, there's a risk of diminishing human agency. When algorithms dictate the information we see and the choices we make, our ability to act freely and make independent decisions may be compromised. This erosion of autonomy challenges the very essence of individual freedom and poses critical questions about consent and control in the digital era. As you reflect on these insights, consider how technology shapes your daily decisions. Recognizing the subtle ways in which algorithms influence our choices is the first step toward reclaiming autonomy. By cultivating awareness and critical thinking, we can navigate the digital landscape more consciously, ensuring that our free will remains intact amidst the pervasive currents of technological influence. Imagine for a moment that your life is a journey along a winding path, with each step representing a choice that shapes your destiny. This metaphor captures the essence of self-determination theory, SDT, a psychological framework that emphasizes the importance of autonomy and control over one's life as essential components of well-being. Developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, SDT posits that humans have three innate psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. When these needs are satisfied, individuals experience enhanced motivation, personal growth, and overall well-being. Autonomy refers to the desire to be the agent of one's own life, acting in harmony with one's integrated self. This doesn't imply complete independence from others, but rather a sense of psychological freedom and internal will. When individuals feel autonomous, they are more likely to engage in activities willingly, leading to greater satisfaction and intrinsic motivation. Competence involves the need to control outcomes and experience mastery. Receiving positive feedback on tasks enhances intrinsic motivation as it fulfills the need for competence. Conversely, negative feedback can diminish motivation by undermining this sense of efficacy. Relatedness is the will to interact with, connect to, and care for others. This need underscores the importance of meaningful relationships and a sense of belonging, which are crucial for psychological health. The satisfaction of these needs is linked to various positive outcomes, including enhanced self-motivation and mental health. SDT suggests that when individuals perceive their actions as self-determined, they experience greater well-being. This perspective aligns with the concept of free will, as both emphasize the capacity for self-governance and personal agency. However, SDT acknowledges that external factors can influence motivation and behavior. For instance, environments that support autonomy, competence, and relatedness foster intrinsic motivation, while controlling or neglectful contexts can hinder it. In essence, SDT bridges the gap between the philosophical notion of free will and empirical research on human motivation, highlighting that autonomy and control over one's life are not only fundamental to well-being but also central to the exercise of free will. Imagine, for a moment, encountering an individual who behaves indistinguishably from any other person, engaging in conversation, expressing emotions, and reacting to stimuli, yet lacks any subjective experience or inner consciousness. This thought experiment introduces the concept of a philosophical zombie, or P-zombie, a being that is physically and behaviorally identical to a human but devoid of conscious awareness. The notion of philosophical zombies challenges our understanding of consciousness and its role in free will. If a P-zombie can perform actions identical to those of a conscious person without any subjective experience, it raises the question, is consciousness necessary for free will, or can free will exist independently of conscious awareness? Proponents of this thought experiment, such as philosopher David Chalmers, argue that the conceivability of P-zombies suggests that physical processes alone cannot account for consciousness. This perspective implies that consciousness, and by extension, free will, may involve non-physical properties beyond mere neurological functions. Conversely, critics like Daniel Dennett contend that the concept of P-zombies is incoherent, asserting that if a being behaves identically to a human in all aspects, it must possess consciousness. Dennett argues that consciousness is inherently linked to behavioral and functional processes, and thus, the idea of a P-zombie is fundamentally flawed. This debate extends to the realm of free will. If P-zombies lack consciousness yet exhibit behavior indistinguishable from conscious individuals, it challenges the notion that conscious awareness is essential for free will. Alternatively, if consciousness is deemed necessary for free will, the existence of P-zombies would imply that such beings operate without genuine autonomy, merely mimicking the behaviors associated with free choice. The philosophical zombie thought experiment thus invites us to reflect on the intricate relationship between consciousness and free will, questioning whether our subjective experiences are integral to our ability to make autonomous choices or merely byproducts of complex neural processes. Imagine, for a moment, a person standing at the edge of a precipice, peering into a chasm that represents the loss of control over one's actions and desires. This metaphor encapsulates the profound challenge that addiction poses to the concept of free will. Addiction is characterized by the compulsive engagement in rewarding stimuli, despite adverse consequences, leading individuals to act against their own well-being and intentions. The interplay between addiction and free will is a subject of extensive debate among scholars and clinicians. Some argue that addiction compromises an individual's autonomy, rendering them unable to make voluntary choices. This perspective is supported by the brain disease model of addiction, which posits that substance dependence alters neural circuits involved in reward, motivation, and self-control, thereby diminishing the capacity for self-regulation. Conversely, others contend that individuals with addictions retain a degree of free will, as evidenced by the ability of many to quit or regulate their cravings voluntarily. Studies have shown that dependence on illicit drugs typically ends after about 4 to 6 years, and most smokers and alcoholics eventually quit using. This suggests that, despite the challenges posed by addiction, individuals maintain the capacity to make choices regarding their behavior. Philosopher Harry Frankfurt offers a nuanced perspective through his concept of higher-order volitions. He distinguishes between first-order desires, immediate urges, and second-order desires, desires about one's desires. An individual exhibits free will when their actions align with their second-order desires. In the context of addiction, a person may have a first-order desire to consume a substance but a second-order desire to abstain. The struggle between these conflicting desires illustrates the complex relationship between addiction and autonomy. Understanding the impact of addiction on free will has significant implications for treatment and societal perceptions. Recognizing that addiction can impair self-control may lead to more compassionate approaches, emphasizing support and rehabilitation over punitive measures. Conversely, acknowledging the retained capacity for choice underscores the importance of empowering individuals in their recovery journey. As you reflect on these perspectives, consider how the intricate dance between compulsion and choice shapes our understanding of human behavior, autonomy, and the path to healing. Imagine, for a moment, a future where artificial intelligence, AI, systems operate with a level of autonomy and sophistication that rivals human decision-making. This scenario invites profound questions about the nature of free will in machines. Could advanced AI ever possess free will, or would their actions remain perpetually tethered to their programming and data inputs? Free will, in the human context, is often defined as the capacity to make choices uncoerced by external forces, reflecting autonomy and self-determination. Translating this concept to AI involves examining whether a machine can make independent decisions not strictly dictated by its programming or external data. Currently, AI operates within the constraints of its design. Algorithms process input data to produce outputs, following predetermined rules. This deterministic nature suggests that AI lacks the spontaneity associated with free will. Critics argue that AI cannot possess free will because its actions are entirely determined by its programming and the data it processes. Unlike humans, who can reflect on their desires and motivations, AI lacks consciousness and self-awareness, operating purely on computational processes. This absence of subjective experience implies that AI decisions, no matter how complex, are not instances of free will but rather the execution of coded instructions. Some philosophers propose a compatibilist view, suggesting that free will can exist within a deterministic framework. Applied to AI, this perspective implies that if a machine can process information, evaluate options, and act upon its evaluations in a manner responsive to reasons, it might be considered to have a form of free will. However, this interpretation hinges on redefining free will to accommodate entities without consciousness, a contentious and debated stance. Advocates for the potential of AI free will argue that as AI systems become more advanced, they might develop emergent properties akin to human decision-making. If an AI could modify its own programming, learn from experiences in unpredictable ways, and set its own goals independent of human designers, it might exhibit a form of autonomy resembling free will. However, this scenario raises ethical and philosophical questions about control, responsibility, and the nature of machine consciousness. While current AI systems do not possess free will as traditionally conceived, the rapid evolution of technology invites ongoing debate. The question of whether AI can achieve free will intersects with discussions about consciousness, autonomy, and the essence of decision-making. As we advance toward more sophisticated AI, society must grapple with these philosophical considerations, balancing innovation with ethical responsibility.